Hundreds of women believed to be victims of Jeffrey Epstein are bracing for the expected release of the Epstein files. The Department of Justice has until Friday to release them.
But some survivors say the agency hasn't reached out to them ahead of the deadline, leaving many of them entirely unaware of what is set to be revealed. CNN's MJ Lee joins us now. MJ, you've spoken with survivors. How are they preparing for this?
Well, the anxiety is really, really high. You know, there's no guidebook for how to prepare for a moment like this. They don't know when exactly the files are going to be released, what kind of information and how much information is coming. But talking to these survivors, you know, one thing that they feel really strongly about is that they want to make sure that victims and survivors' names and any identifying information is protected. And they said, we don't want our story to be sensationalized. We want to make sure that we get the information on the people around Epstein who might have helped him, who might have even just been his friend and maybe turned a blind eye. And one thing that really stood out to me in talking to these survivors is that the drip of the disclosure so far, including from some of these congressional committees, that has been really triggering for them. I just want you to listen to a little bit of my conversation with the survivors.
So when the first set of pictures came out last week, that really kind of threw me for a loop because I was on the island. And one of those pictures was the room I was in. And I kept going back, telling people, no, there was a phone. There were phone. I know I called somebody. When I saw the phone, I was like, no, my memory is correct. I am correct. So some things are validating when you see them. And then other things are just actually completely traumatizing.
And doesn't this lend to why it is so frustrating that the survivor's experience is not centered in all of this? Because there's a lot of context that survivors could be giving to those photos right now.
And I spoke with a doctor who is a trauma expert, and they said, you know, traumatic experiences are encoded in our brains differently as images, smells, bodily experiences. So when somebody experiences that later in life as a cue, it can be really triggering. Your body can go into sort of danger mode. And that's why even the anticipation alone has been really hard for some of these women.
Especially when they're being, as they describe it, left out of the process.
Yeah, they're being left out of the process. At least the women that I spoke with said that the DOJ has not reached out to them in any way, so they have no heads up about timing or what kind of information. I've reached out to some of the lawyers representing them as well. A mixed bag. Some of them said that they did hear from the DOJ, at least to discuss the redactions. Just one more thing I wanted to play from our conversation. You know, they were talking about how they feel like the justice system has by and large really disappointed them over the years. Take a listen.
At this point, do you all feel confident? Do you trust that the DOJ is going to release everything?
That's a rhetorical question, right, MJ?
Yeah.
No, the answer, for me, the answer is no. The answer is like, yeah, I don't feel confident in this at all. I feel like we've been waiting for, this all felt way too easy to pass in one day. So I think we've always been like looking behind our back, looking over the shoulder, what's coming next, right?
Speaks for itself. I think very little trust there.
That's right.
Well, we'll see if potentially in the next 48 hours or so something changes and DOJ reaches out to these women. They should, right? MJ Lee, thank you so much for your reporting. Appreciate it.